And we're live. Welcome back to LOOPcast. Today, I'm joined by Erica and Fuzzy Josh. His hardware connection got fried in the storms over there, but we're happy to have him today. We have breaking news as of this morning, but plenty of stuff to get into. Erica, what are we getting into this episode?
Yep. So breaking news, China came back with 84% tariffs. We're going to dig into the latest on the trade wars, and the Liberation Day saga continues. We also had SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, weighing in on Trump executive orders and on the authority of lower courts to issue national injunctions. We have a new segment. I'm really excited, called Good News. Thank you to Tom Pegasic, who's like, guys, we got to, elevate the levels a little bit here. Yeah. So we're going to give you some great news.
Everyone could use some good news. It's
right.
Good news.
And the best news of all, Pogo, is that we are de-extincting animals. We are, the dire wolf craze has bit the Loopcast, and we are here for it. So
listen, I'm going to come up top. That is not a part of the good news.
Great show.
That's not what I consider good news.
It depends.
You're going to ruin the segment before it gets off the ground.
We can talk
I'm not
about
calling it the good news.
We'll talk about it.
But we'll talk about it. But before we get into the episode, I have two partners I'm excited to share with you. Charity Mobile, of course, the OGs. Let's talk about Charity Mobile, the pro-life phone company. When you switch to Charity Mobile, 5% of your monthly plan goes to the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice at no extra cost to you. Everyday living made effortless giving. It's time to make the switch. With the same nationwide coverage as the major carriers, Charity Mobile has a variety of plans to fit every need, from basic talk and text options to unlimited data. And you can get up to 8 lines. They offer a range of phones, from the simple flip phones to the latest 5G smartphones, or you can bring your own compatible device. Plus, no contracts, no termination fees, and a 30-day guarantee, so there's no risk in giving them a try at all. Charity Mobile has been in business for nearly 30 years, providing U.S.-based customer service by phone. That's good news. U.S.-based?
That is good news.
Good news with all the tariffs and all that. Service by phone, chat, or email, so why not buy the way you believe and support causes that matter to you with everyday phone use? New customers can get a free phone after instant credit, plus activation and free standard shipping with the promo code LOOPcast. And show's also brought to you by the wonderful place, University of Dallas. In a world where people can often feel lonely and cynical, the University of Dallas is different. It's a place where students build strong friendships, grow in their faith, and encounter the greatest thinkers of Western civilization, all while searching for truth, wisdom, and goodness. University of Dallas alumnus Brian Birch is responsible for this quest in an extraordinary way. President Trump has nominated him as the ambassador to the Holy See. The University of Dallas applauds Brian for his personal witness, advocacy, and great work that he has been called to. As University of Dallas President Jonathan J. Sanford stated, Brian is a man of deep Catholic faith, strong character, and genuine prudence. We cannot be prouder of him. I agree. I think he also has remarkable restraint after some of the questions that he was given by the Senate. Learn more about Brian's alma mater, the University of Dallas, and join Brian's fellow alumni who are praying for him on his ongoing nomination process by clicking the link in the description below. We'll also throw it in the live chat. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you to the University of Dallas.
He did pretty good at that hearing after it's a Loopcast bump. I'm going to call it now.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought he did great. We had a little watch party here at the office at Catholic Vote, and I was just asking questions as a testosterone-filled young man when he was questioning about the transgender mice. I'm like, why is he not able to correct? I was like, he should have nuked that lady. I think it was Shaheen. Yeah. And they're like, no, you have to be diplomatic. You have to let the other senators correct. You have to whatever. And I'm like, maybe I need to wait, a good 20, 30 years.
Well, it's not a debate between different senators where they're trying to one up each other. It's like, you allow the opportunity for these senators to say whatever they want to say. And you're not there to try to challenge them. You're intending to represent the United States. You're intending to represent the American people. And so obviously senators on the Foreign Relations Committee represent the people indirectly, obviously. But so, in that sense, he's intending to represent the United States federal government and the people. So, it's not really the place for.
It's not a Loopcast episode
for nominees to kind of dunk on the people that he needs them to hire him. So
prudence and restraint. Okay, so we got a very full episode today. I'm going to just get right to it up top. So we have breaking news as of this morning. China has elevated their tariffs up to 84%. I'm going to get into the full story and context so that I can leave you guys with just a clear picture of what's happening in terms of the Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs that went into effect at midnight last night. So this went into effect against 86 countries. Analysts have estimated the new U.S. average effective tariff rate is north of 20%. Again, this is pretty unprecedented in modern times. But the question was, are people going to hit back? The U.S. definitely encouraged people not to retaliate, and the majority have not at this point. So countries now seeking negotiations include Japan, South Korea, Israel, the EU, India, Taiwan, the UK, and Vietnam, among others. Now, specifically, these countries have either mentioned lowering their tariff barriers or expressed a willingness to negotiate with the United States to avoid or reduce the impact of these reciprocal tariffs. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated on April 8th that about 70 countries had reached out to the White House with inquiries about the tariffs, with negotiations starting immediately. So they imagine it's going to be a busy next couple months in terms of how those negotiations break out. But, of course, there's one very notable exception to this: China. China has retaliated with 34% duties on U.S. goods. That was immediately after the reciprocal were announced from the United States, plus up to 15% on agricultural products like meats and grains, and restricted rare earth exports critical to U.S. tech and defense. That is the big one. I don't even think I covered that last episode, but I believe China is in possession of 90% of the world's rare earth exports that we're talking about here. So, yeah, Beijing has declared they're ready for a full trade war, and they're not going to back down. So what did Trump do? He said, all right, we're going to go up to 104% tariffs. Hilarious. I've seen some stuff online saying that it was an ode to his old friend, Prime Minister Shinzo, who was assassinated, because 104 is slang for angel in Japanese. Just throwing that out there. Don't know if that's true or not. Hilarious if true.
Yep.
And then as of this morning, China has retaliated and raised their tariffs up to 84%. Now, one line really cracks me up here. We have China's Ministry of Commerce issued a statement condemning the move. It described the U.S. actions as, quote, economic bullying and blackmail.
I believe this was right after the Chinese embassy in D.C. posted a video of Ronald Reagan attacking terrorists. And this is like, what Twilight Zone am I living in? We've got the Chinese posting Reagan as a slap. What is that called? Clapback to the Trump administration.
Isn't there's a proverb about living in strange times, I believe, right?
Yeah. In the last hour, though, the EU has also approved retaliatory tariffs between 10 to 25% on U.S. goods. That just came down the pike.
Okay. Very interesting to watch. I think, but just to provide some perspective on the China front specifically, China is America's second largest source of imports last year, but just so the numbers are clear, shipping a total of $439 billion worth of goods to the U.S., and the U.S. exported $144 billion worth of goods to China. So for those who are doing math at home, that's about 4 times. So China sends us about 4 times what we send them. So, I mean, like, you go to the administration, they're basically calling the bluff here of saying, and I think Bessent has spoke probably the most intelligently on it, and I appreciate his perspective. Here it is.
Maria, I think it's unfortunate that the Chinese actually don't want to come and negotiate, because they are the worst offenders in the international trading system. They have the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world, and I can tell you that this escalation is a loser for them. That they have some very smart, the economists, the academicians, technocrats within their bureaucracy, and they would be telling the leadership that we do not have the edge here. They are the surplus country, that their exports to the U.S. are 5 times our exports to China. So they can raise their tariffs, but so what? Maria?
So what?
Right.
The other thing China's doing is dumping U.S. Treasury bonds.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Which there is an element to all of this that this is essentially a play to break the break Chinese currency. Essentially saying you have all the levers you want to use that you want. You need our goods. Your economy can't survive without it. Interesting. I was looking at a little bit of a history too. So Trump's first term was marked by tariffs on China. This isn't a new effort from Trump. He's actually been beating this drum, I think, since like the 80s. He's been very clear that China's been predatory, not a good trading partner, that they're just stealing IP, they're cheating copyright law, they're cheating all kinds of world trade agreements. And so he charged an average tariff on 19.3% of Chinese goods. Biden actually kept that in place. He didn't change that. So there was kind of a commitment and acknowledgement that, hey, we need to do something about this problem. And to me, this just feels like an elevation now of, we need a final solution to this problem.
Yeah, to me,
No one has
yeah.
said it. I will share one more thing before we get
Go
into
for it.
reactions. No one has said it better than Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank fame. Here it is.
104% tariffs in China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well, hold on.
Whew.
What an image.
And there you get it. That's why, just hoping that we can have a nice little negotiation with China is just simply not going to work. You need to play hardball with these guys. And they're hoping to, by dumping treasuries and making the bond yield go up and make it more expensive for us to refinance our debt, they're hoping that we'll cry uncle and we'll give in. And Chinese are thought to be, we play the long game and we'll sit this out and we'll wait out the Americans. And that's why Trump has got to be strong on this. And
Yeah.
not
My
buckle.
thought is, we're pushing the crisis to a breaking point. And with this kind of warfare, not just in trade wars, in any kind of war, if you're going to push the crisis to the breaking point, to a place where decisions have to be made and changes have to be made, you've got to push it all the way. Because it makes me very nervous. But if you're going to act decisively and go for the gold, that's literally go for the gold.
But I mean,
Should
it's
we be
just,
going-
again, like the slave wages, they're gutting the market with cheap goods by using slave wages. And then, as he said, they're also stealing intellectual property. So like you come up with an idea and you have a factory in China produce the widget for you. Then they go, oh, okay, cool. And they let that secret
They
out
copy
to,
the
like,
plans, right?
Yeah.
10, 15 other people. And then all of a sudden, like, wait a minute, what? Now you're flooding the market with something I invented.
Well, it's
So-
not just happening. It doesn't just happen in manufacturing either. My husband his training is in Research One University, science, neuroscience, and in the scientific community as well. There is a huge issue with Chinese students who, some of them are really under the gun. They come over here to study and they are watched by the communist government night and day. Their emails and they're expected to steal the work of scientists from other countries. So it happens in the sciences, it happens in manufacturing. And of course, like you said, Josh, they run on a slave economy. This is not, there's no such thing as fair trade with China because it's not a fair trade country within its own borders.
Yeah.
So like I said, I hate to, it makes me very nervous. Any kind of war is terrible, but I'm with Mr. Wonderful on this one. If you're going to do it, you got to do it big.
I much rather would wage war with not consuming cheap plastic stuff from China than with bullets and guns.
Amen to that, brother.
And I do think that this is kind of becoming more clear to me that the global tariff regime, whether it seems chaotic or whatever, I think is actually addressing the final solution of taking on China. And just the more that I dig into, and it is funny to see some journalists really, I think we're about a week away from seeing Chinese flags in certain journalists' bios. because like
Your filter on Facebook. Yeah.
I'll give you guys a few examples in case you're not aware. I think everyone kind of intuits that the CCP has been unfair, but they are by far the worst global polluter. So in terms of environmental, it's not even close. They dump everywhere. They are terrible in terms of if you're concerned about climate change or whatever. They're large thieves of IP and copyright laws we brought up. They subsidize their industries way past WTO limits. I mean, I've talked to guys who used to be in the steel industry in America, gone. In the 90s when we opened that up, there's no way for American steel to compete with these subsidized industries in China, intentionally to get other places hooked on their cheap steel so that they could raise the prices. There's no legal structure in China, like Mr. Wonderful was saying. You can't litigate these problems. It's super authoritarian. Also, this is going to hit such a narrow niche of the audience. Hopefully someone will get this. It's actually literally the plot of Black Ops 2 if you swap in trade war with cyber attack. And it actually
this is where I zone out. You go for it, Pogo.
So Black Ops 2, the campaign, it was over rare earth minerals in China. Someone pointed this out over Twitter, and it's like the perfect use for X. Just like stuff that 1%, maybe less than 1% would understand. It also happened in the year 2025. So listen, a little bit Simpsons-like. This escalation was called by Black Ops 2 back in my middle school days.
Game or something?
The video game, yes, Call of Duty. So moving on to more serious topics, Apple. So I was looking at, like I said, these journalists are like, oh my gosh, how are we going to afford iPhones? Forbes wrote an article saying that iPhones could go in the 30,000 to 100,000 range. And no, this is not a typo. In fact, if Apple were forced to solely manufacture the iPhone in America, there's a good argument that it would not be able to manufacture any at all. And if could somehow successfully make the manufacturing transition, capacity would likely be constrained to just a few million units per year.
Yeah.
You know what I say to that? Boo freaking who?
You have to buy it and build it in America. We're not.
No one's saying that. I would just like for them not to, like Foxconn's a great example of using Uyghur slaves to manufacture their things. 100 hours of overtime per month, 14-year-olds employed at MacBook factories, $2 an hour wages. I mean, this is like
the nets, to prevent workers from committing suicide by jumping off the top of the building.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's like,
I mean, that's actually, we don't want people to commit suicide. I mean, granted,
we like the nets there, but the fact they need.
Why is it that they're wanting to jump off a building?
Right.
And I've seen serious analysis of this, and they're like, oh, now Apple will have to temporarily source more iPhones from India because the tariff is about a quarter of what we would be hitting with China, and that's increasing as of the day. Great. It kind of goes back to my point on.
That's the point.
I was watching an ARC debate, and the free trade people are like, we are going to rely on the patriotic instincts of our business leaders here in Australia to not buy from China. When Apple, one of the largest companies in the world, has literally operated off of slave labor until they get exposed barely, and then they do nothing about it. Right. So it's like, I'm not going to pretend like these business leaders are these, moral theologian, great patriots that would never do this. They have been doing it for years. And it's almost like this is the exact thing that needs to happen to get people off the drug of cheap labor and actually operating with some type of solidarity to the human existence. Go ahead, Erica.
Right. Yeah. And this is another point. So when you see the Forbes headlines like that, it's why iPhone's going to cost $30,000 to $100,000. Those analyses, so-called, it's such a scare clickbait tactic because what they don't take into account, not only the whole moral, we're living off slave labor, and that is a problem that you'd think the left and especially the Catholic left would get on board with, but that also doesn't take into account the fact of human ingenuity and creativity. Apple is not just they're not going to just keep operating the same way and be like, okay, we move everything to the United States and we put $100,000 price tag on this. No, we figure stuff out. Adaptation is what makes us the greatest species on Earth, other than the whole dignity and image of God thing, right? But we can adapt. And will it take time? Yes. Will prices go up? Yes. But in the end, it could be so much better. Apple's
why do prices go up? If they go up because we're no longer using slave labor, then they shouldn't have been this low to begin with.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
If I had to say I could have never held an iPhone in my hand, but I would know that we're not using slaves to build them, then yeah, I'd be okay with no iPhones. Is that even a crazy?
Put me down for the no slavery category.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
On the 160th anniversary of the signing of the end of the Civil War in Appomattox.
Ah, man.
Oh my gosh! For those who celebrate, I do.
Some
anniversary.
make the connection between Black Ops 2 and what's going on right now. Some make the connection between the freeing of the
Appomattox.
slaves. So
Yep. I have another connection. You ever see Apollo 13? You see that movie? Apollo 13,
One of the
right?
greatest.
Great movie, right?
Wait.
Tom Hanks at his best because he wasn't talking politics. He was just acting. Good job.
you're talking
Tom.
about the film that was made of us being on the moon.
Yeah, right.
So-
No, they didn't
you
make
weren't
it to
on
the moon in
moon
this movie. You'd love it.
because the thing. Oh my gosh, Pogo, this is embarrassing. Apollo 13. There's the scene, right,
For who?
where the CO2 filter goes out. It explodes, and the CO2 levels are climbing. The astronauts don't know what to do. They don't have another filter because they didn't plan for this disaster. They didn't plan to be in space this long.
Mhm.
So the guys down in Houston, Texas, what do? They get replicas of everything that is on that plane.
All
They
the
dump it
material.
all.
Yeah.
They put it all on the table and they're like, use this to build a filter. So they're ripping up manuals. They're using the duct tape. And they do it. They build a filter. That is what Apple and all these other companies are going to have to do, where you say, okay, we're taking you out of the slave labor. You have no filter. You just have to figure it out. Here's what we have in the United States. Here's what we have with other countries. Here's all the tariffs. Now figure it out.
Yes,
And you know
and
what? Humans can do that.
That's actually government at its best. We're not
Yes.
going to dictate how everything's done, but we're not going to let you use slaves. Pretty simple.
That sounds a lot like
I drink to
Appomattox.
that. Cheers.
Hey, I'll have my bubbly.
All right, so that wraps the China
Wow.
section. Erica, I sent you on a quest yesterday to understand the Supreme Court decisions that we saw yesterday. I know it was on deportation and then also on federal workforce. What do you got there?
Right. We had 3 Supreme Court decisions yesterday that have a lot to do with all of the lower court injunctions on the Trump administration, which we've talked about on the show a couple times before. So the first massive case decision was a 5-4 decision. I'll get into who said what on Trump versus JGG. And it allows the Trump administration to resume deportations under that 1798 Alien Enemies Act that the left has been like, you can't use laws from 1798. Turns out you can. But the really interesting thing about the court here, two interesting things. One, weirdly, it was the 4 women who dissented. Amy Coney Barrett joined She joined the liberal justices. There they are. Looks like someone said it was the View in black robes, but that's terrible. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't repeat that. That was a terrible thing to say.
That's a bad
She
joke.
joins
That's a bad
the
joke.
liberal justices against them. So more on that in a minute. But the key point of the ruling. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll wait.
Go ahead, Erica. Go
It
ahead.
was a very narrow ruling. So much to my disappointment, the justices did not rule on the Alien Enemies Act. What they did rule on was that the district courts do not have the authority to issue a nationwide injunction. So Judge Boasberg there, who's the Obama-appointed judge who's been, used by the left to slow the Trump administration down, he does not have the authority to say, all over the nation, we're halting all these deportations. The judges declined to comment on whether or not Trump's appeal to the Alien Enemies Act was in fact constitutional. So there's probably more challenges coming down the pike on those. The administration, the court said, does have to offer due process, and the legal challenges to deportations must be filed in the jurisdiction where the detainees are held. So they can't file for a stay of deportation in DC the way that they were trying to do. Since they're being held in the state of Texas, all of the challenges have to go through the Texas system. So this was sort of a freeing up of the Trump administration here. The dissenting justices, they seemed to have concerns. I was reading through the dissent. It's like 3 times as long as the actual decision. Lots of words expressing concerns about potential human rights abuses, that some deportees are being sent to El Salvador. It was definitely going around this more narrow question that Roberts and Thomas and Kavanaugh, et cetera, went with for the majority. Ketanji Brown Jackson said, "This is just like when the Supreme Court upheld the president's right in 1944 to detain 110,000 American citizens of Japanese ancestry in the internment camps." So she's saying deporting illegal immigrants en masse to El Salvadorian prisons is just like taking U.S. citizens and putting them in internment camps in the middle of the desert. So I'll just leave that to you guys.
Josh, you held your tongue long enough.
I mean, okay, so well, my friend John Hassan makes the point that Amy Coney Barrett is actually, if you just look at her rulings, she is more conservative than Kavanaugh and John Roberts. She just has this very particular devotion to procedure, and that's why she, ruled this way. It's not for her on the merits;
Mhm.
it's on the procedure. On, should you put an injunction on a district judge's TRO and all this other kind of stuff. And so she's getting engaged in the weeds here on a legalistic thing, which,
to be fair, one more detail, just one more fact to put in there. She only signed on to a portion of the dissent. She didn't sign on to the entire long dissent that Sotomayor and Elena Kagan were
That's
part
right.
of with Ketanji there. So she was a very narrow joining of the minority there.
What gets frustrating about that, though, is that the three liberals on the court are absolute total communists who don't care about, they only invoke procedure and all this kind of stuff as a way to thwart the majority. They are all, Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown are absolutely focused on results-oriented justice. They know what they want as a result, and they'll twist and turn and manipulate the law in whatever way. And so that's why conservatives get upset over the procedure stuff, because it's like the other side is fair here. And it's like we're tied to all these, these rules and these customs, and the other side would throw us all in ovens if they had the chance. So that's the frustration that conservatives speak with, and it's like, oh, great, thanks for the procedure. Well, have you considered the fact that the procedure in this case might be stupid?
Which I guess is tough, because isn't that supposed to be the job? Like, we have three people in there that don't understand the job of the Supreme Court to protect the law.
They believe in the living Constitution, as in the evolving Constitution, that it's no longer
I'm not even giving them that credit. They believe, those three on the court believe that they are members of a permanent constitutional convention, and they get to decide whatever the Constitution is. That they get to add and put into the penumbras whatever the hell they want, and it's a bunch of crap. They don't believe in a free people.
So there's an argument to be had here that Amy Coney Barrett, while it is almost I don't want to use the word cute because I don't want to be disrespectful, but like there is an admirable quality about really respecting the Constitution and procedure, but there's also a frustration of like, you got to understand the moment here, like what's going on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like when people say, oh, that, President Lincoln, put a bunch of elected representatives in Maryland, and basically held them so that that Maryland couldn't decide to become a slave state.
Right.
It's like, yeah, well, it was a civil war. I mean, it's like, like when you have a civil war, it's different rules apply. We're not in a hot civil war like that, but we have been, I think, if we're being honest, the last 60 years, it's the equivalent of a cold civil war.
Absolutely.
And we do not have people that respect the institutions like that. Like, what did we have over the last 4 years? We had a presidential administration that allowed millions of people to come into this country illegally purpose. Hell, they had apps. They download this app so you can come into our country illegally. I mean, it's insane. And it's pure evil.
Well, not only that, they waged political lawfare on their political enemies. I mean, Donald Trump being the primary example. Yep, spying on Catholics. It was
on the law for
the FBI.
Remember when they sued Greg Abbott for trying to put up a barrier in his own state to stop people from coming in? And they're like, nope, you got to take that off. What? Like, what? It was almost like so ridiculous.
You are not allowed to defend your state. Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm not defending the country.
It remains an injustice that if you're going to impeach Donald Trump twice, that you let Joe Biden stay in office for 4 years when obviously he was, mentally incapacitated, but he committed treason against the United States.
Him or whoever was pulling the strings.
Well,
exactly.
It's his name.
His auto pen.
Stops there.
The auto pen.
That's right.
Erica,
He
so
owns it.
two more
Okay,
decisions. Run through those real
Two
quick.
more. I'll go those really fast. So one more was actually just a halt from Chief Justice John Roberts saying that the Trump administration does not have to go to El Salvador, retrieve Kilmar Abrego Garcia from prison there. And he, again, John Roberts saying the lower courts do not have the authority to make these, to order the president of the United States to go to another sovereign nation and say, you have to do this with someone on your land, basically. The third decision, oh gosh, federal workers. So far, according to the New York Times layoffs tracker, yes, we do have that. It has replaced the COVID death tracker. Now we have the federal worker layoff tracker. Another filter
Those
for
are
your
rookie
Facebook
numbers. Got to
photo.
pump
Yeah.
them up.
You gotta pump them up.
So again, the court coming through and saying, yes, the president of the United States has the authority to lay off his own employees. And so upholding, this was a 7-2 decision. I know Josh is like, wait, imagine that. He can actually do this. This was a 7-2, lifted a lower court injunction that had mandated the reinstatement of all these employees, which is bizarre. The court determined that the nonprofit organizations challenging the dismissals lacked legal standing to sue. Because it was not even the employees themselves suing. It was just these activist NGO nonprofit kind of, yeah, it was fun.
Well, I also hate that don't have standing argument. It's just so stupid. So let them sue. Argue it on the merits. I hate these. I mean, you don't have standing.
It was a procedural win. So as it is, the Trump firings continue apace, and we are smashing things and reordering the American deep state. Thank you, SCOTUS.
Okay, good news section. New section. To set out the vision for it. Basically, I always want to make sure in every show that we have something positive we can highlight to bring to the audience. Yes, outrage sells, but I think it's important for our souls to make sure we highlight the good things going on, especially when we have the Loop as a resource. We have Refine as a resource. Catholic Vote is blessed with a resource of people that are putting these kind of things together. So stuff we see throughout the week, stuff we're working on internally, we want to share with you good news. So Erica, what is your good news of the week?
Yeah, so we had some really great numbers when it comes to religion coming out of the United Kingdom. And I dunk on the UK all the time because horrible things are happening there. But really great things are happening too. We seem to be seeing with the data young people returning to the church almost at the same rate as the elderly are returning to the church. So if you look at these numbers here, you'll see that we have 5 different demographics. These are by age. And the 2 youngest cohorts, so 18 to 25-year-olds and 35-year-olds and 36 to 44-year-olds, that line going up and to the right indicates that over the last few years, I think the numbers are 2018 till now, we've actually seen an increase in church attendance among young people. But it gets better. The good news keeps coming. Say it again.
Do you see this spike right here?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was about a year ago.
This spike is right after 2020. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
18 to 35-year-olds, like over 50%.
Church.
That's crazy. So
back to church.
Young people are up.
But as Catholics, we're excited because, like I said, the news gets better. And I love this because I'm an Anglophile. A new study has found that among members of Gen Z in the UK, Catholics now outnumber Anglicans.
Send the word out.
2 to 1.
Send the word out. We up.
We want our churches back.
I know. I want
our
Salisbury
abbeys back.
Cathedral back. I want it back. I want Canterbury Cathedral, where you guys held that rave last year. I would like that back now because we outnumber you 2 to 1. Clearly, Thomas Beckett's prayers have been efficacious.
We're up.
I expect Catholic Mass in Canterbury Cathedral in my lifetime. I'll put it out there. In
100 years, UK is either totally Muslim or it's TLM. I mean, those are your options.
Man, we're getting back to the Crusade roots here.
It's true.
Let's go.
Oh boy.
Dave's Volt.
Siege of Jerusalem, right in London.
Yeah, Erica, did you have
Siege of London first?
Did you have
I'm going to go with
that?
I'll rest my case on that.
All right, great.
I was pretty happy.
Mine, I was very happy to see this as a hillbilly elegy enjoyer. They did a really adorable celebration with JD Vance's mom to mark her 10th year of sobriety. So from JD Vance's tweet, this year marks my mom's 10th year of sobriety, and I'm grateful that we are able to celebrate in the White House with our family. Mom, I am so proud of you. You see in this picture, brought the whole gang from Hillbilly Elegy, which anyone who's read this book knows. I mean, what a colorful
Amazing.
crew. The Scots-Irish heritage is strong in their choice of language and choice of dress. They are all dressed up here, but I just thought, this is kind of hopefully an opportunity everyone can put aside here. It's for his mom to basically go from not even being able to take care of him. His mama raised him. And him saying, I don't think I even want my mom to meet my children. It was that bad. I mean, she was completely addicted to drugs, just a terrible situation. And to now have her be able to watch his children celebrate at the White House, be 10 years sober, just such a beautiful moment.
It's
And
a
I
miracle.
was really happy to see it. Kind of brought some emotions to me too. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows people addicted to something in their life, and this is an incredible, incredible accomplishment. So really cool. I wanted to share that.
Yeah, totally heartwarming. Praise God, right? That's grace. That's all grace.
Mm-hmm. Shout out Mama. Shout out JD Vance. Shout out Hillbilly LG. It's a great book. Everyone should read it.
And shout out Usha too for
Usha,
sticking with
queen.
him. I mean,
She's
really
the
great.
best.
Yeah.
Big fan of Usha.
Mhm.
Someone was saying that her political career, I think she was profiled in the Free Press. They're like,
Yeah, it's
we
great
always
interview.
thought that she would be more high profile than JD. Like she could have, because she clerked for Supreme Court justices. And I guess
Yeah.
she still could have a political career. I don't know if you got any predictions you want to get off your chest here, Josh, as to what she could do, but it's possible.
Who knows, right?
No,
Anything's possible. She's
no
still got
predictions.
young
Limit.
kids though, so I mean,
True. You can have it all, but just not all at the same time. Remember,
That's
harkening
what I
back
say.
to our
That's what I
Megyn
say.
Kelly commentary.
Okay.
So
Okay,
we all doing this good news stuff then, or what?
Josh, hit me with some good news.
Mercer's got good news.
So hilarious. My son tells my oldest daughter, "Hey, we're not going to be praying outside the Planned Parenthood anymore in our town." And she's like, "What? What are you talking about? You guys are giving up? You're not going to pray for the unborn anymore?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, they're closing."
Woo!
So years and
Well
years
played.
of prayer, praying the rosary. These students from St. Michael High School, I am a volunteer. I help out myself. So proud of these. I prayed there as well, but it's the students that did the praying mostly. I'm not going to try to hog the credit here. They've done it. This is all them. For years and years, they pray outside this Planned Parenthood in my small little town at a Planned Parenthood. It's just so sad. And now the Planned Parenthood in Marquette, and then my town of Petoskey, and then also in Jackson, these three cities, which all happen to have, by the way, Chester. Connect. Well, the two of them have a
That's
Chester
awesome.
school. That's kind of cool. These Planned Parenthoods are shutting down. I mean, you can credit President Trump for cutting off the spigot. That's probably played a contributing factor. But I got to think the good Lord answers our prayers. And how about a shout out to all these young kids? I think the future looks bright.
Future does.
The kids are okay.
Indeed.
That's right. Hey, they are also shutting down their Manhattan abortion mill too, which is probably the most high profile abortion clinic protests here in the Northeast, where you've got just pro-abortion advocates screaming bloody murder at nuns kneeling on the sidewalk, Sisters of Life, Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, Franciscan Sisters of the Renewal. It's shutting down. They're selling the property in Soho on Bleecker Street, and another stunning turnaround, because that
part
was
of that is that
abortion central.
We've seen a switch from surgical abortions to chemical abortions.
Right.
Therefore, we're seeing less of these facilities. But that's not the case in my town. They weren't performing surgical abortions. So in large part, the rural areas are rejecting abortion, and New York City, unfortunately, still embraces it. But yeah, it's nice to see that at least removed from sight. But then we also, as pro-lifers, need to be cognizant of the fact that these guys are sending out death pills through the mail, and we need to shut it down.
Amen.
Okay, you can consider this my early Twilight Zone, but we've learned 0 lessons from Jurassic Park. Here is a Time magazine cover. It is extinct with a line through it. This is Remus. He is a dire wolf, the first to exist in over 10,000 years. Endangered species could be changed forever. Okay, Eric, I know you're deep in this. Rosie was deep in this. We are now going to be deep in this. So the company Colossal Biosciences, by the way, I mean, just while I'm going over this, they are leaning into the end times in the naming of everything, in how they go about everything. It's like if you were to set out to intentionally name stuff to provoke the end times. This is how they went about it. Colossal Biosciences claimed on Monday to have de-extincted the dire wolf by genetically engineering 3 wolf pups. And again, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, with traits resembling those of extinct species. The news has reignited public fascination with dire wolves, especially given their cultural prominence from the HBO series Game of Thrones. If we have any fans in here,
No.
the idea of bringing back an extinct creature tied to both prehistoric reality and modern fantasy has gotten people talking. Real life Jurassic Park. We have a video here of the cute. They're trying to win us over with the end times with the cute videos.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
They're
this
very
is an
cute.
adorable video of Romulus and Remus. I don't know if this is Khaleesi, but they're howling.
The names, though, at least are
I
pretty
know.
cool.
I
I
mean, that's what I'm
mean,
saying.
Romulus and Remus, that's awesome.
But if I were to go end time talk, I would go Roman names too.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just that Romulus and Remus were the twins that founded Rome, and they fought over each other. I mean, come on.
And
They killed each other.
But can we please, Erica? This isn't really
Yeah.
de-extincting. We got to
No.
like. Yes, this is fun to kind of kick around, but like they kind of cheated. I feel.
Yeah, this isn't exactly like, oh, we brought dire wolves back using their DNA and cloning them or anything. They took dire wolf genome, they modified, I think it was it was gray wolf DNA in an embryo, and then they implant the embryo in a domestic dog who gives birth as a surrogate. And so what you really have here is a wolf with characteristics of the dire wolf. So they're expecting like bigger sizes, more ferocious, I don't know, cuter baby howls or something. So it's a little specious of them. The same thing happened last year when they were like, we are de-extincting the woolly mammoth. No, you're not. You're genetically modifying an elephant so that it could maybe survive in Siberia. Like,
Well,
that's
they're like
real.
they're like Babe Ruthing this though. They're like, we're bringing back the woolly mammoth.
100%.
We're bringing
Yeah.
back this. It's
They're
wild,
going
wild.
for it's like Trump with the China tariffs. They're like going for the jugular here. But
Yeah.
I think it just captures the imagination, and it's gone absolutely viral all over the place. So are we de-extincting animals? Oh my gosh, they're just so
Also,
scary looking too. Look
Here's
at
a
that
picture.
thing.
Yeah, this is a picture of the original dire wolf, and this
Oof.
is a picture of what we have now. This is what they're doing. They're trying to like sleight of hand sneak it in on us by making it really cute. It's like, if we
Yeah.
kind of make it as cute as possible, because
Who
he's not
doesn't
gonna
love
lie,
a puppy?
kind of ugly. No
Yeah.
one would have fought to bring this back if they weren't like,
Right.
we're gonna make it cute. And now they're sneaking this in on us. Oh, it's
Yeah.
cute now. So
And it is, I think someone in the chat saying it's diabolical. And I think in the sense that this is absolutely twisted to try to engineer into existence a creature for whose characteristics and traits are from something that could not survive into modern times. Like you're literally engineering something that is not built for the conditions of our planet right now. So you're engineering a creature
Yeah,
that's
they weren't
going
tough
to
enough
live
to
its
kill
life
the
in
last time. Get
captivity.
rid of them.
Yeah, yeah. I thought we were all like Darwinist natural selection, and here this is like the ultimate non-natural selection that we're
I know
seeing.
that's.
with
I
these
always
dire
wonder
wolves.
about these people. Like, we got to stop such and such from being extinct. It's like, hey, if they can't cut it, too bad. Come on. But I thought we
Mhm.
believed in this evolution stuff, you know?
Yeah.
someone's prediction with all of this is that we're just moving towards basically designer zoo animals. Like, because as we said,
Yeah.
this actually isn't a dire wolf. It's kind of cheating in that regard, and they're
You'd
making
never
it
release them into the wild, right?
no.
I mean, maybe you would, Jurassic Park,
From
but
Brennan
Did you see their
M.
tweet?
Wind,
Did you see their
PhD,
tweet on that?
a Jurassic Park account. Yeah, they said this can't end well or something like that.
Like,
What could
hello,
go wrong, right?
Yeah,
we've
what
seen
could
the
go wrong?
movie. We've seen the movie twice. We've seen it twice.
There's
Yeah.
no possible way this could go wrong.
Yeah.
This is basically orchid. Remember the orchid technology I talked
course.
about with the designer babies? This
Hated
is
that.
hated that. Hate this. This is just. But again, we can't help ourselves. We're like, we can do it. We will do it. And you're just like, guys, this is why we need virtue. We need Jesus.
We are made in the image of God,
much.
but we are not God.
No.
Yeah.
Whenever we try to be God, it ends really badly.
We have
for-
managed to
Including
fail
the
both
wolves.
of those repeatedly.
Yeah.
We forget that
since
we're made in
Garden
God's
of
image,
Eden.
and then we forget that we're also
And then we
not
make designer
God.
zoo animals.
It's our
Uh,
MO.
Okay,
Hey,
I'm
someone
seeing some
actually-
connection.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
someone in the
Erica.
chat said that my analysis of the Supreme Court case was off. Please send us an email. I am not a
yeah.
lawyer. I am trying to understand it better. So please email us. How can they get in touch with us and correct my record?
Loopcast@catholicvote.org.
That's it.
I
Please.
genuinely
Send me an
enjoy
email.
when people send in stuff because, like, I was just talking about this to our ads guy, Marcus. Shout out Marcus. To do a podcast, you are never going to be the most expert on anything ever. There's always going to be someone that knows more than you, has more expertise than you, or whatever. So if you were just going off of the expertise model, no one would ever speak ever. So fortunately, this podcast attracts very intelligent people with various expertises. And so if you hear something that sounds a little bit off, or you can add perspective to or color commentary, I'd love to hear from you. We all would love to hear from you. I don't know, Josh, Eric and I would. Maybe Josh would say, just keep it to yourself. But send it in, loopcast@catholicvote.org. I'm genuinely always like blown away by the people that listen to the show. It's crazy. Okay, before we get into it, I think Josh is actually in the process of changing his Twilight Zone because it was going to be what we were going to address in Mississippi. So Erica, you were looking into Mississippi.
Yeah.
What is going on there?
This is really interesting. Everything we thought we knew about education was wrong. It turns out, contrary to popular belief, the Deep South is doing pretty well with reading. So here we have the NEEP scores. We talked about these. This is the scoring, the testing of 4th and 8th graders that happens every so many number of years, and it indicates math proficiency and literacy among the nation's 4th and 8th graders. Nationally, we're doing terribly, right? But here you see something really interesting. You see Mississippi and Louisiana beating out states like Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut. And the reason why we're seeing this is because a new analysis just came in of the NEEP score numbers. And what it's called is demographic adjusted scoring. Now, I went on an intellectual journey with this graph because the guy posts it online. He's like, here, according to demographic adjusted scores, Mississippi comes out on top in terms of literacy on the NEEP exams. And everyone starts going in the comments, this is racist math. What do you mean? We're not going to count the poor Black kids who can't read? What is this? You're a bunch of racists. We just want to get back to our old scoring system where all of the progressive states that spend the most on education get the best scores, because that's what fits our narrative of what works in education. Actually, no, this is the opposite of racist math. So what's happening here in 2018, these two statisticians, Stan Leibowitz and Matthew Kelly, not that Matthew Kelly of Dynamic Catholic, took a hard look at how education results are being reported. Traditional rankings of states, including reporting of the NEEP scores, graded states according to a few key measures, including graduation rates, education spending, and test scores. So these two guys, first, they're going to remove all the other factors. They just want to look at the scores on the NEEP exams. Second, and here comes the racist math supposedly, traditional rankings effectively reward states for not having many minority students. States do well simply because they're populated by families from more socioeconomically successful ethnic categories, not because they're actually doing a good job educating their various categories of students.
It's like Vermont.
So Vermont does really well, and everyone's like, that's great. But it's because they're all white kids in Vermont. Student heterogeneity, so when there's lots of different groups, is precisely why traditional state education rankings can be so misleading. So small New England states do very well, but that status merely reflects that their Black and Hispanic populations are very, very small. So when you account for the fact that Texas or Mississippi or Louisiana have these large minority groups of students, and you look at the scores in that way, you find that Texas white kids are doing better than Vermont white kids. You're finding that Texas Black kids are doing better than Vermont Black kids. And you actually see almost a complete inversion with a couple of exceptions, Massachusetts being one of them, of the way that we can perceive how literacy is happening.
Massachusetts, in other words, is still doing well.
They're still doing well, right? They didn't fall too far.
Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi are doing a lot better than we would have expected.
Right. They're now in the top 10 instead of the bottom 10, which is what traditional rankings give them.
So what they do? What they change?
Yeah. So here it comes. Guys, it's phonics. It's all just phonics. So Mississippi in 2012, the Republican governor and legislator passed the Literacy-Based Promotion Act, which went into effect in 2013. It's very simple. It's phonics-based reading instruction. So you look at a letter and you learn the sounds it can make, and then you decode words using the sounds of the letters in the alphabet. They also, and this is really interesting to me, they began to hold back third graders who fail a reading test. Surprisingly, this is not happening in progressive states. You don't
No.
hold kids back anymore.
You get punished for
Literally,
that.
in Connecticut, we have a girl who graduated high school last year has sued the state Department of Education and the Hartford school system because she graduated with honors from the Hartford high school system, and she can't read and she cannot write. She uses speech to text to get by.
She got failed forward.
She was failed forward. Mississippi stops doing that. And sure enough, 8 years later, they're at the top of the pile when it comes to literacy.
One of the
Amazing
things that the states are doing too is they're pushing back like the time in which you can start a kid in school, so that, like, you know, when I with my first child, we were able to have her enter into kindergarten when she was not yet 5. And then the cutoff was like December, and then they moved it to November, October, back to August. So in other words, that's one of the ways that they're trying to deal with this, because they don't want to be in a situation where they're like, okay, do we hold a kid back?
Mhm.
Because that can be, it can be apparently pretty traumatic. Someone I know was held back, and she still remembers it decades later. Like, I get
Mhm.
it, like it, but you also don't want to be in a situation like you mentioned where students are failed forward so much that they lack the basic comprehension skills. Like, there's got to be some sort of just way. Like, we used to have it where it'd be summer school. Like, okay, here's a chance for you to try to, to learn this stuff, to make sure that you start the next year off and you're not,
Yeah,
out of
there's
your
Mhm.
water.
Right.
so one, I know for a fact, I come from a family of teachers, that you are actually punished if you hold a kid back, you're punished by the school.
Right. The teachers
The way
are.
that the public school system works, it actually, in a lot of states, they will punish you for that. So it is pretty unusual that Mississippi is doing this, because without this type of thing, you'd be punished for this activity. And then two, like when I went to, so shout out Regina Chaley, like we're going to be at the Courage Under Fire event. We're very excited to be
Yeah,
there.
excited.
We're having some meetings about the details, but we're going to be there. It's going to be awesome. So I went to Regina Chaley Academy. They have I think Mother Divine Grace is similar to with the homeschooling.
Mhm.
They have a mastery based system. So it wasn't based upon, did you pass? Like,
This grade level. Mhm.
right. So your grade level, if you got a 70% or whatever, you would just keep it moving. Clearly, if you're getting a 70%, you don't really understand what's going on. Like, you don't understand the subject matter. So there was no punishment for retaking tests,
Mhm.
but you had to reach, I can't remember exactly what the threshold was, but it's a system based on mastery as opposed to the traditional public school method of like you reach a passing grade and then you can keep going.
Mhm.
And I actually did think that made a big difference I started really late. So I was already kind of, I was already getting A's or whatever, but I think
Yeah,
for the younger ages, it's especially important.
and classical schools are doing this more and more. Alternative education methods. This is part of the beauty of homeschooling, right? Is that you start a math book when you're ready to start the math book, right? Not because, okay, everyone's in this classroom now, so everyone's going to start here. So when Regina Chaley, when I was working for them, when they would accept a family, the kids would take placement tests. And where you were going to be successful was where you started in the math curriculum. And where you were going to be successful is where you started in the phonics program. And that kind of an approach to these skills that you build up over time is much more effective for children. And like Josh said, it helps to mitigate or prevent that feeling of, oh, I had to repeat a grade. No, you just got to go with this level till you master this level.
Yeah. So
Pretty cool.
you said the difference, just to round this out. So 2013, I see the LBPA passed this legislature. The state ranked 49th in fourth grade reading and is
Right.
now, as of 2019, ranked 29th in the country. And today it's
And
at the
this
top.
year, it's the first, right? So we went from the 49th state, and this is, again, just looking at the NEEP scores for that demographically adjusted scoring. They were bottom. They were in the middle, 29th, and today they're number 1.
That's
so
crazy.
Let's learn from Mississippi.
Good for them. Also kind of breaking the narrative of these like dumb red states that are all poor. Like I hear that conversation all the time. It's like, why are all the Republican states poor? Like, someone ragged in Alabama. I was like, yeah, where we have all of our like space programs and like the engineers. What are you talking about here? Like,
No, it's like Alabama is still wealthier than most of the European countries.
totally. Yeah. Like their GDP is bigger than Spain. So like, what are we talking about
And in
here?
Mississippi, you can actually afford a house.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
have a job.
exactly. Yeah, compared to like California or whatever.
No, but it's so true. Like the liberal states are they look down their nose at it. Growing up in Minnesota, like, oh, Texas, it's like third world, it's crazy. And
Those
Oregon is like the progressive, perfect. And they're 50th. They're in
Yeah,
last
right.
place. And Mississippi is in one.
Yeah.
Take that, Portland.
Yeah, and then you can't walk
Love it.
through the street without stepping over like homeless encampments and like drugged out people. It's like the fruit of whatever you guys got going here is not really bearing out.
And it's death.
Okay, so Twilight Zone now. Josh, you're up first.
Okay, so Treasury Secretary Sean Duffy, awesome. He gave a speech at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, which is under his jurisdiction, and the academy. It's like it's this really old building. It's dilapidated. They don't have a good enough heat, and it's like it's just in rough shape. And he's like, "This is crazy. I mean, you guys are awesome. Why are you in such crazy conditions?" And then he also made the point that the Biden administration had taken down a painting of Jesus saving merchant marines.
Hmm.
Oh, can't have something religious. So they took it down. They covered it up with a curtain, and they put it in the flood prone basement. So Sean Duffy addressed these merchant marines. We got the clip here.
Isn't this like the favorite Catholic president of liberal public Catholic publications? Like a truly good and decent man. Like every new thing I hear about
Obviously,
it's
it's an establishment of a national church if you allow a painting of Jesus saving merchant marines in the Merchant Marine Academy.
What are we doing here? My gosh. All right, here we go.
And so I want you to know that I understand the conditions here, and I am going to fight my ass off to make sure you all get the respect and the money that this academy deserves. And so again, not only smart, not only strong, but you are a great looking bunch of young people. And so with that, as you all go into your careers, God bless you. May God keep you safe. But can I ask, could we bring Jesus up from the basement?
Yes.
Let's not put Jesus in the basement. Let him out.
That's
Jesus out of
awesome.
the basement.
No one
Yeah,
puts
Jesus
Jesus in the basement.
Except our second Catholic president.
Yeah.
Erica.
Devout Catholic. Yeah, mine's a little bit more of a downer, but AI is being used to generate all these memes. AI is generating movies. You got to be a little careful. I was a little confused yesterday. There was an Elon Musk Trump interview supposedly where Trump was like, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, Trump has like been converted. It was all AI generated. But this one made me so angry. Some snarky, probably East Coast elitist went on AI and they were like, oh, make America manufacturing jobs. So here's what we've got. For those of you who are on the audio only, we have a bunch of extremely obese Americans at sewing machines. We've got the white guys with their worker uniforms on, all assembling the same thing. And then it goes, make America great again. Like this is some big own, because dunking on people who have blue collar manufacturing jobs is somehow, such a big win for the left. Like, oh, nobody wants this. It makes me so angry. American garment workers, American garment factories were a source of pride for our people. Were there bad conditions? Absolutely. Should we address bad conditions? Yes. But that doesn't mean that people who work with their hands and produce goods that we wear on our bodies are somehow worthy of this kind of mockery. And it's certainly not an own of the Trump administration, make America great again. So Use your skills for something more elevated, guys.
I mean, and again, I guess I just push back, at all this kind of talk. Like, there's, like, what is wrong with doing, I mean, I cleaned office buildings, I washed dishes for a restaurant. I mean, I worked at a drugstore. I worked at Sears. Like, I did all this stuff. I didn't do manufacturing, but I would never look down my nose at someone who did that. I mean, it's good work. There's dignity in work. I just find it repugnant. Like, okay, so if you don't want to work in a factory, I'm not saying everyone has to work in a factory. And it's not like every factory looks like it did in like 1710. Like, get a grip, people.
You'd rather work in a cubicle with tungsten light and jeans Fridays? Like, what is the comparison? Like, also is hysterical with this is I feel like everyone just universally acknowledges that made in America clothing in the like 60s and 70s are absolute premium right now and still are in fantastic shape if you took good care of it. And people seek that out. Like the whole idea of like thrifting and vintage, because everything made now is crap. It's crap. It falls apart in 2 years.
That's true.
Fast fashion with Shein. Like, you go to a thrift store, you see Temu everywhere. Like, we all acknowledge that made in America stuff was fantastic and lasted forever. And I was listening to something too. Like, we made the B-52 bomber in what year? Like the 30s, I think. And there's still been no real innovation past that. Like, if something is good, you don't innovate for innovation's sake. We made that in the 30s. Like, we invented the automobile in the 20s, and we haven't had like real significant innovation.
1880, but
Right. But like, we haven't had real significant innovation beyond, hey, let's go turn the F-150 into a smartphone. Like, we somehow have not become like American hard work, innovation, ingenuity, the pride that people took in small towns across America in what they produced because it was a good product that they were proud of, and it provided a life for the families and the money for their communities to live the American dream. And somehow there's this like snide, like, you think you want to go back to that? Yeah, I'd actually love to go back to that. I would love to have things made in America that last forever, make people proud, and provide a good living for people around me. I'd prefer that than pencil pushing, Excel spreadsheet driven economy that I see most people like are somehow putting up as the gold standard. Like, even if you disagree with the mechanics of how it's going to get done, the principle of manufacturing in America, I don't understand anyone that could possibly be against that.
Here's a good example of that, Tom. Erica will know this because she's been to Hillsdale, Michigan now. We're home of the college there. There used to be thriving factories. I mean, if you drive around the town, you see like 8 or 9 like vacant, factories or whatever. It used to be a bustling factory town. Hillsdale and all these other manufacturers, and it was right on the railroad. In fact, they got electricity. What was it, 1884, the same year that Midtown Manhattan did. Like, this is the kind of stories that you hear about. But then, if thank the good Lord that in their circumstance, at least they have this college that is thriving, and so it provided some opportunity. But other small towns don't have that, and so then when NAFTA and WTO and China cheap trade guts these towns, they're like, all we have left as an option is like, hopefully we'll get a prison open up in town.
Here's some Oxycontin.
Or,
here's some illegal immigrants. Like, the level of betrayal is it actually fills me with white hot rage to the point where I almost black out. Like, we bail out Wall Street, we bail out Silicon Valley, we bail out the government
every
single time, without exception. Bailed out the quote auto industry through Obama. Yeah, thanks, Obama. That was
who will think about the 401k holder? Who will?
Right. Not me. I have no sympathy for this at all. Like, and again, if you disagree with mechanics, that's fine.
We could run a whole episode just covering like, why isn't the Catholic left with us on this? Like, here's another example where, like, it's Wall Street that's complaining about the stock market, but like, if this protectionist stuff reshores a lot of jobs, then boy,
that could be really good for the marginalized.
I want an economy of high wages. That's what I want.
Yep. High wages, work protections, and like national security.
Let's hope we're
like
getting
every element of it. is a positive. So yeah, you got to look past the little snipey AI stuff. Although I'm actually glad people keep doing that. I think it's the dumbest possible argument. It reminds me often like the pick the crops argument. Like, oh, who's going to pick your crops? Like,
Yeah,
if
Jasmine
we-
Crockett this
if we
week.
don't allow unchecked illegal immigration, mass immigration to literally invade our country, oh my gosh, you might not get strawberries picked for, $1 wages and sex trafficking happen behind your back. Like, what are you arguing for?
Right.
Right.
You're arguing for modern slavery and abuse. Also, you can get your avocados
These
for $1
strawberries
cheaper.
should cost you $3, but we'll sell them to you for $1 because we use slaves. Like, oh,
I'll eat less
Like, oh,
strawberries
sure.
for no
Right.
slaves.
How
I'll
about we have
throw
a law
my
that says
iPhone
no
into a
slaves?
lake. I'll throw my iPhone in a lake if it means that we're not using slaves abroad to make them. Like, I'm happy to make these changes. I think most Americans are. And all the people that are like, well, your 401k, we got bigger
I
problems.
mean, it's not even a choice. Like, of course I don't
No.
want slave labor. Like,
Right.
Not at all. My last one was just, I can't. I
love
keep
this
up with NPR from time to time to see what the other side's thinking.
they're so bad.
They'll have the China flag in their bio very soon.
Yeah.
But they have a little section called Shots, which feels very aptly. I'm sure they're sponsored by all kinds
Health
of big
news.
pharma, whatever. Health news from NPR. Headline: Transfer from Alaska.
To Alaska.
Transfer to Alaska. Offer to health leaders called insult to Indian Health Service. Now, if you're wondering who's feeling insulting, yes, it is government bureaucrats
So
in
bad.
the HHS that are getting fired. And they were offered, hey, if you'd actually like to really meaningfully contribute to the country
Public
in
service,
areas that don't have good healthcare professionals, hey, we could really use you in Alaska. And they are
Right.
like, I cannot believe you would even suggest something so insulting as to me leaving, Alexandria and my cozy life there and going to Alaska and, I don't know, serving the public. That is legitimately the crux of this article.
I loved it. I did not see this coming at all, a senior executive said at HHS. They asked not to be identified. And then William Chief Bill Smith, who chairs an organization that advocates on behalf of the tribes, some of whom are up in Alaska and need healthcare professionals up there because there are no doctors. He's like, oh, any major leadership changes need to be made with full consultation with the tribal nations. So like they're down on it. But the idea that like, oh, our public servants are all being fired and this is terrible to people who are just here to serve the country. And then you're like, you want to serve the country? Why don't we just send you to the reservation where you are really needed and you can actually serve effectively? And they're like, oh no, I'd have to leave
What?
Fairfax, Virginia? No. Go to Alaska.
They don't have my steakhouse there. They don't. What are the soirees like?
Yeah.
There's no social scene in
I
Alaska.
don't care about the name.
It goes back to Josh, your point. You always bring this up. Like, I think Trump actually is low key trying to do this. I actually don't have anything in front of me, but to move different departments of government to places in the country where they actually belong.
Yeah, like
So,
the interior.
Department of Interior should be in Montana or
Right.
Wyoming. Like, there's no reason for the Department of Interior to be in DC. Like,
Right.
your whole job is actually to serve like rural parts of Middle America.
Department of Agriculture could be
Ag should be in Kansas. Yeah.
On the prairie.
or Illinois.
Because the hope would be that people that work for there are not working there so that they can get a cushy lobbying job after, that they actually care about agriculture in the country. And if you cared about agriculture, you would be living in Kansas. You'd be living
Pretty
in
soon
Illinois.
we'll have more bureaucrats
Common
that
sense.
work for the Department of Agriculture than we do farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy and
Yep.
scary.
So anyway,
Common sense revolution. Let's do it.
yeah. Welcome to the golden age of America.
Welcome to Alaska.
Yeah. Alaska be chill. I'd love to go to Alaska one day. That'd be cool.
Not to live.
It's the only one I haven't been to.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Maybe we do a Loopcast trip to
And
Alaska.
to Hawaii. Oh, I'm so jealous. I wanna
Josh in
try.
Hawaii. That is a funny thought.
I was there as a 14-year-old boy with my family. We went there, and it just so happened as we got there, it's the same day as the coup d'état in the Soviet Union. It was like, whoa.
Nice
I was like,
vacation.
this is crazy. But then I turned off the news because I'm like,
you're in
I'm gonna go to
Hawaii.
the beach and Moscow's asleep.
Just 14-year-old Josh in an oversized Hawaiian, worried about what's going on in Russia. His family's vacation.
And that's
On
That's
brand.
awesome,
What can I
dude.
say?
It was awesome. Just like too much sunscreen on his nose, like a white nose. Just like,
I
the coup
never
d'etat.
Never.
That is incredible. That's an incredible. Someone AI that, or maybe don't. Okay. Thank you guys for joining today's show. If you want to help us out, you can leave reviews, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can actually comment on Spotify now. So if you're listening, leave a comment. I saw someone appreciated my Tim Dillon reference. Yes, I think he's the modern political philosopher of our times. And so yeah, leave
Like
that there.
Hobbes, but funny.
Yes, you can subscribe here on YouTube. That helps out a lot. Thank you. You can like this episode, comment below. Join the Champions Club. It's the best way to support us. Thank you to all our champions listening today. Thank you to our sponsors, University of Dallas and Charity Mobile. And of course, pray for us. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. We will see you guys on the next episode. Ready to rock.